maybe one more minute before we get started. Okay, I am told that we are ready to go. So welcome everybody to the Urban Experience Committee meeting for Monday, October 11th. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, everyone. Let's get started first with an approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the September 13th meeting? We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes pass. Thank you. Under discussion items and staff requests, we're going to start off with Amanda Beck, and she's going to talk about the flood plan management update for the Spokane Municipal Code. Is Amanda there? There she is.
Screen. Thank you, Council Member.
And we have you down for about 10 minutes.
Thank you. Sorry, the dual screen always is a hassle to pull up. There we go. You guys see everything?
We see it. Thank you.
Great. So this item was presented at Urban Experience way back in July, so I thought it would be good to do a quick refresher before this comes before Council. The two ordinances you see on screen just reflect respective changes to Chapter 17A.020 and 17E.030. So why are we updating the city's floodplain management regulations? Because we participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, which is administered by FEMA. So that just provides flood insurance to residents in participating communities. And because we are a participating community, we agree to enforce minimum NFIP standards that are contained within the Code of Federal Regulations. We work closely with Ecology on keeping code up to date and in compliance. Federal regulations are the minimum baseline, and then states can do additional requirements that respond to their unique hydrologies and geologies. So Louisiana, probably a little bit different than, say, our state. So as part of our participation in NFIP, we coordinate with Ecology on community assistance contacts and community assistance visits. That's FEMA's way of identifying possible deficiencies or violations for communities' floodplain management program. Plus, it's a way for municipalities to get technical assistance when they update their codes. So the proposed changes are mandated both because of changes put forth by FEMA and also updates from Ecology for the state of Washington. They updated the FEMA model ordinance in December of 2019. So we need to update our code and have it completed by the end of this year. What you see on screen is a snapshot of all of the sections in Chapter 17A.020 that are being amended. So often FEMA requires adoption of their exact language to ensure that the intent and requirements are being met. And as a part of the update, staff completed a Washington state model checklist. It's a ecology review document which notes if language is mandatory, gives you reference back to the CFR, or if it's a particular Washington state requirement, it'll give you the reference to the RCW. just to give a highlight, some of the things we're changing. So we're amending several definitions to include either exact federal language like flood or flooding, or we're adding new language such as the flood elevation certificate, which is being tied to a new section that's being added into 17E.030.060. Or they're just small amendments or updates to language to ensure that we're aligning appropriately with what FEMA says we need to. One thing I do want to note is that this is not in any way changing our digital flood insurance rate maps or DFIRMs, which is an action that's completed by FEMA. So no properties are changing or going in and out of any flood zones or anything like that. It's merely just updates to definitions, permitting requirements, and processes. Similarly, these are all the sections in Chapter 17E.030 that are being updated to ensure that we're complying with the CFR, RCW, and WAC.
Hey, Amanda?
Yes.
This is Karen. Just a quick question. So do you have to notify, or do you spend time with the notification process for any landowners that are affected by this?
So since it's citywide, we didn't notify specific properties, and it shouldn't impact individual properties since this isn't changing. Yes, this isn't changing the zone that they might be in if they're in a zone. It's really just updating information, like if you were to build in a flood zone, these are the steps that you would need to take when you submit your permit.
So that information would be available to them if they choose to do that when they go through the permitting process?
Correct, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Cathcart?
Yeah, thank you. Amanda, you said it doesn't really affect current homeowners, but how might it affect future development?
So it's not so much that there are additional requirements. Some of this is cleanup, where if you can, what you see on screen in regard to like 17E.030.080, we're adding in stuff that FEMA says if our code doesn't already address this particular duty that a floodplain administrator make sure it's in your code. There will be some changes that might impact if you have a structure in the floodplain. FEMA came out with some policy updates last year in regard to agricultural accessory structures in the floodway that just requires certain anchoring and construction requirements. And then there's also, let me just skip ahead. So the two sections that might kind of address your question would be the replacement of farmhouses in the floodway and then also substantial damaged residences in the floodway. So that's just really addressing if you have a structure, say it gets damaged more than 50%, FEMA then dictates what would need to happen if you were to rebuild or if you can rebuild depending on if you're in a certain flood zone. So that would have an impact, but as my understanding...
At present, you can rebuild if you kind of match the same footprint. Is that sort of still the standard?
Yes, I'd have to go back in and dig through that particular section. I don't remember offhand every detail for those new additions in subsection 160.
Okay. Well, if you just want to send this over, because I don't see it in our packet, I just love to read through it, and I can probably answer my own questions. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing some updates to development permit requirements. So as I mentioned a few slides ago, we're adding in an elevation certificate requirement. That's a requirement coming down from FEMA. We're making some revisions to the section for the floodplain administrator. So what you see on screen, all of those are duties that they would be notifying FEMA for. There's also a little bit of reorganizing of the chapter, if you will. So review building permits is in a separate section, and we're moving that to be under the floodplain administrator since that's a part of their purview. One thing that we're doing, we're repealing 17E.030.120. It's just a way to keep the code cleaner. Currently, right now, it's a resource material reference, so it references currently out-of-date federal guidelines. So after talking it through with ecology, we decided it was just neater to get rid of that. We're also updating general standards, so that applies for all development and subdivisions. And the new minimum requirements section really doesn't add anything prescriptive. So like you need to be X number of feet above base flood elevation, so much as it's really echoing the intent of the NFIP program. So proper anchoring, proper access, making sure that if something were to experience a flood event, that it's not going to damage property around it, upstream, downstream. Like I said previously, we are adding some new sections that have come out of policy changes from FEMA. So that's the replacement of farmhouses in the floodway and substantial damaged residences in the floodway. And then one of the last things that we're updating, so section 17E.030.170 currently addresses AO zones and then also essential public facilities, but AO zones isn't applicable for us. So rather than repeal that section and create a new one, it's been heavily revised to just address essential public facilities. So as far as the process, so we actually started this process with ecology last year and then kind of got a little bit off track due to COVID, but then picked it back up to make sure that we met the deadline for changing the code. So we sent our notice of intent to Commerce, brought this before you in early July, and also notified Plan Commission that this would be coming before them. We held an open house on the 19th, and then sent out our public notice and a SEPA determination of non-significance September 8th and 15th, and then Plan Commission held their public hearing on the 22nd with a recommendation to approve. So this item will be briefed this afternoon at advanced agenda with the final hearing for October 25th. It sounds like potentially you guys might want to have me present a little bit further this afternoon since there were some questions.
Any answers to that one? I think I got what I needed. Councilmember Cathcart?
Yeah, I don't know that I need any further presentation. Just if I could just get a copy of what's being changed so I could just skim through it, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, that's certainly. Sorry, I didn't think to include it for the urban experience briefing, but I will email that out, and it should also be included in the packet for this afternoon.
Great.
Does anybody else have questions? Amanda, this was great information. Thank you so much for taking some time with us this afternoon. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Okay, next up, Carly Courtwright. We're going to talk about Neighborhood Council liaison expectations. I'm going to hand it over.
Council members. I will get going on sharing my screen here. Maybe. Well, Annalee, I might have to have you do it. It's not letting me share.
Can we see something?
Do you see something? All right. Well, that's encouraging.
Because you're
There we go. Okay. I see it now, too. Has it moved forward? That's always my other challenge. All right. Thank you so much, council members. So what I want to give everyone a brief update on today is it's hard to believe already. This past year has sort of flown by, but I've been with Neighborhood Services for a year now, and working with the staff, we've really been trying to meet with the neighborhood councils, meet with members of community assembly. Obviously, you're aware of the project that we've been working on with Gonzaga School of Leadership that we briefed at a study session last month, and really trying to improve our service delivery. There's, I think, definitely been a sense of frustration on behalf of the neighborhood councils and community assembly on sort of a lack of support over the last 2 years with ONS. I think just a lot of changes within the organization. They've been frustrated, and we've been trying to work with them to find out what exactly those frustrations are and to address that. And I think we've come a really long way. City Council approved our MOU with Community Assembly last month, which I think was another really good step in terms of making clear what those expectations are, making sure that we're being accountable to each other, as well as finding a way forward to keep making those things better. So my next step on that was the neighborhood councils themselves. So just as a refresher for everybody, the neighborhood councils are independent. There are 29 of them, and that's codified underneath both the city charter and the Spokane Municipal Code. Per that, each neighborhood council is required to have 2 points of contact for communication with the city, a set of bylaws on file, operate a democratic process, and allow participation by anyone over the age of 16 that is a resident or property owner. We include business owners within that neighborhood council. So each one of the neighborhood councils sets their events and their meeting schedules on their own. Some meet monthly, some meet bi-monthly, and some meet quarterly. The minimum requirement is that they meet at least quarterly. I bring this up because I know as we go into kind of the next item on expectation, and I know I've heard from some of you, I think it's the second Thursday of the month has about 9 neighborhood councils meeting that night. A lot of them overlap on the same night. Sometimes that's the same night as other boards and commissions, and that can be a challenge for attendance. And so sometimes there's a, hey, can we move this? Unfortunately, that's kind of up to each one of the neighborhood councils. We do have 2 right now that are considering changing theirs. Their meeting times, some are looking at moving to a bi-monthly schedule, so they keep us updated on that, and that helps us be able to attend more. But if they're meeting monthly, that can be a challenge. So where ONS comes in is, per that municipal code, the Office of Neighborhood Services is here to support the neighborhood councils. The nature of that support is not well defined. It basically says that we will help them work with other city departments to address issues in their neighborhood. So traditionally, in order to provide the support, we've assigned a staff liaison to each neighborhood council in order to support them, which includes attending their meetings. And again, historically, that has been on at least a quarterly basis. That sort of changed. I know City Council has been really supportive of making sure ONS is properly staffed. When they were part of planning, there were more staff, and that was able to, I think, have that be balanced a little bit better. When we separated from planning last year, we only have 3 community program coordinators to support 29 neighborhoods. And my attention has been, I'm staffed to one of them because I've got so many other things going on as well. That is a change that we're going to make to try to even that out and balance that a little bit more. With the COVID pandemic, many of the neighborhood councils switched to virtual meetings. In fact, almost all of them have. There are a couple that haven't met, but in general, some of them maybe waited a while to see how it was going to go. By this time last year, I think 28 were meeting at least virtually. So this has allowed the liaisons to attend almost all the meetings, even if it was for just a brief period of time, to provide updates and answer any questions, do any type of follow-up. But as we kind of get into the end of this year and move into next year, we already have several at this point that have started returning to meeting in person. Some of them are doing a hybrid. Some of them are still continuing just to do virtual. But it really provided us an opportunity to say, let's reevaluate how we're going to do the best service delivery going forward to meet that support and help them as best as we can. So other things to mention is that we have varying demands of support from the neighborhood councils. We have some that we don't hear from at all. Despite us doing outreach, they are a fine oiled machine and don't need much from us, except maybe when some things of importance come up. Other ones require weekly requests for assistance. They are much more hands-on. They have questions that they want addressed. Oftentimes, as I'm sure many of you are aware, those are usually traffic related. That is the hot topic of the year right now. So we spend a lot of time working with the street department and SPD trying to get those resolved. So the other reason for kind of reevaluating and coming up with these liaison expectations is to improve staff efficiency, try to balance that out, as well as allow them to have a good work-life balance. It's a challenge. They know when they start these roles that they're going to have after-hours, weekend meetings, but allowing them some predictability in that so that they know that they can schedule things to participate in. So one of our CPCs, for example, is involved with improv, works with the Blue Door Theater and, has practice. And so being able to provide an opportunity to not have meetings on those nights so she can engage in that is helpful, and the same thing for the rest of the staff as well, just to have sort of that planned expectation. I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, quick question. What is the plan to provide more staff to neighborhood services? Are you going to have an ask or?
At this time, no. We had to make a slight cut to our budget this year. It wasn't very much, but definitely didn't ask. At this point in time, council member, I don't know that we need more. Again, this is all trying to realign so we can meet those expectations. Like I said, I've picked up a few. Our community programs coordinator, Cindy Ortiz, she just changed her name, is going to pick up a couple as well. She handles more of our special events, our volunteer program, our community centers. So she's got a little bit of a different role than the community program coordinators, but she's helping to pick up some of that as well. And a lot of where this comes from, is, like I said, is that varying level of support. Right now, for example, I think our biggest challenge that we haven't been able to meet that support for the neighborhood councils was Northwest and Balboa South Indian Trail. They both meet on the same night at the exact same time, and both of them have requested quite a lot of help from ONS. So that's been a little bit of a challenge for us, trying to support both of them at the same time. As you'll see on the next slide, we've sort of accommodated that, or maybe it's the slide after this, I apologize, I'll get to it in a minute. We've accommodated that by making sure that someone else is there. So at one night, Northwest was having an election and needed support, and so their liaison was there. Balboa South Indian Trail had a real concern about a severe motorcycle accident that had happened and wanted to, discuss that. And so they had their NRO present, and I attended that meeting to help coverage. So we did make sure someone from ONS was there, and that's always going to be our goal, is if there is a reason that you need us there, we're going to be there. Otherwise, like I said, some neighborhoods aren't really interested in having ONS there. They feel that we're kind of taking up space on their agenda, and they've got it covered. And so, again, it's kind of all over the place. Hence my point here of that individualized support, trying to support each one of the neighborhood councils on what they need while still providing a baseline of expectations. And that's a challenge, as I'm sure all of you are aware, serving them with 29 neighborhoods. There's maybe about 14 different need sets out there, because some of them are the same. But trying to meet that, this is where we've come up with a sort of, again, and I would stress it's minimum expectation. Our desire is always to provide more if it's asked of us, but I'm also not going to force ONS staff on neighborhoods that have expressed, we're happy to have you there, but we don't feel we need you there, if that makes sense.
Just my final part of my question, you're not planning any further decrease in services or layoff or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Got the
Yeah.
staff and they can work with those. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. So with that, we developed a liaison expectations document that we shared with the neighborhood council leadership. Again, I really feel that this is a collaborative relationship. I want it to go both ways. And again, kind of recognizing that they're all different. Some of them need more from us than others, and that might change over time. Some of them might be really strong right now, but be in a place where they need a different level. And so recognizing that, continuing to kind of work with them. We solicited their feedback, and I'll be honest, the most feedback we got is, I thought I made this really cool calendar that outlined when we'd be in attendance, and it turns out that I have an analyst brain, and that didn't translate very well. So I had to redo that. I got better thumbs up the second time around. The other feedback that I received was mostly around concerns of duplication of effort. So what I did hear from a few of the neighborhood councils was, we've got the ONS liaison, a city council member or their legislative aide, and then oftentimes the CA rep, all are reporting out on the same things. So that does become a little bit of duplication of effort. They expressed that they were always happy to see ONS or city council there, but maybe coordinating a little bit better to make sure that we're not sharing the same information would be helpful. So that's one of our goals that we're going to work on going forward. So the liaison expectations document that we have is that each neighborhood council will still have a designated liaison. As I mentioned, we tried not to change. That was one point of concern that we'd heard, as there'd been a lot of turnover in recent years. We've had newer staff. Gabby Ryan is our most senior CPC at this point, and she's coming up on her third year in the department in January. So as you can imagine, in the couple years prior, as well as the changes with planning, they've had a lot of turnover. So they were all pretty happy to hear that for the most part, they were all keeping the liaison that they've had for the last year. I picked up a couple of neighborhoods, again, to kind of balance that out on the nights that we had an overabundance. Right now, each one of the liaisons is assigned a night of the week. And so I took on, I already have Comstock. I've added Southgate, Nevada Heights, and North Hill starting at the beginning of the year. So I tried to pick up an extra one for each one of the districts. And then in recognition that the quarterly ones don't meet as often and don't have that much of an impact, Cindy Ortiz is taking on Grandview Thorpe and Latah Hangman. They only meet quarterly. 5 Miles, the other one that meets quarterly, they were changing their nights, so they're moving to, I believe, the fourth Thursday of the month. They're the only group that will be meeting on that night. So that became easier for us to be able to staff that. So they'll be staying with Annie. We'll be providing a monthly report to the NC Chair, which we're already doing, that provides an update on ONS programming, city updates of a general nature, and then city updates that have a direct impact to that neighborhood. So specific traffic projects, street projects, development projects, that's a key interest for some of the neighborhoods, as well as any special events that might have impact to their traffic. We're going to provide that at least before the day of the meeting. And if they're not meeting that month, we'll get it to them by the 15th of the month. So they'll always have that. They can share that with their membership. We're going to make sure, too, going forward, that we get a copy to you and your legislative aid. So that way you know what we're sharing, and you're all in the loop on that. So there's hopefully that may reduce some of the updating on the same things. We obviously don't read the entire report to them when we're there. We'll pick out important things, but my hope is by sending that report to you ahead of time on your LA, you guys can kind of, this is really important to me to talk about. We want to let you have that opportunity, and we'll speak to whatever else. The other thing that we're changing, not really changing, this is kind of an expectation, was quarterly. We've reduced it to, we'll go to a meeting 3 times per year. That's minimum. Our goal is to always go more, but that may not always be possible. And as I expressed, some neighborhoods want us there, some don't. So if it's a neighborhood who wants us there, we're going to make every effort to try to go more often. We did say only once a year for neighborhood councils that meet quarterly. The reason that I threw that out there was I wanted to keep it fair as much as possible. So even though they're a little bit easier to get to, if we went to 2 of their meetings per year, that would mean we were attending 50% of their meetings compared to only about a quarter of the rest. And so that's why we made that suggestion and didn't hear any negative feedback on that at all. So again, as I kind of mentioned for your question, Councilmember Stratton, if for some reason there's a need for a neighborhood to really have us there, so if they're not scheduled to have their liaison in attendance in that particular month, but something's come up that's really of importance to them, they just need to let their liaison know, and we're going to try to make sure that we can attend. Depending on the start time of the meeting, their liaison might be able to do it. Depending on where that is, though, they might be on the opposite parts of town, trying to drive all over to get to. That could be a challenge. So we'll make someone else be sure to attend. That might be me, that might be Cindy, it might be one of the other liaisons. But we'll, if they want someone from ONS there, we're going to be there. If we become aware of an emergent issue, and some of the examples of this have been like the Way Out shelter, or the Cannon Street shelter, getting with those neighborhoods and being able to be in attendance so we can hear their concerns firsthand, be able to have the right city staff there to share. So that way we're always in the loop. So if those come up, we'll make sure that we're in attendance for those as well. For neighborhoods that still continue to have a virtual option, it's still going to be an expectation that we show up, again, at least for a brief amount of time if there's an overlap. So there's an opportunity for them to ask us questions. I let the neighborhoods know that may not always be possible depending on when your meeting is scheduled and what that overlap is. Regardless if we're attending the meeting or not, there will be a timely follow-up to any questions asked. That was another reason we kind of made this change, is talking with staff, as I'm sure you've probably encountered as well. When we get asked questions, we might not always have the answer. Most of what ONS's job is tracking down who's responsible. I just got an email from a neighborhood council chair who has a neighborhood that's concerned about a leaning tree and is kind of, I guess, calling over to different departments in the city and not getting results of, I'm concerned this tree is going to fall down in the next windstorm. So I'm now going to be tracking down, where do we go? Is it urban forestry? Is this a code enforcement issue? Is there probably private property responsibility? So that's really our job. that's what comes up in the meetings, is they ask us questions. We might not always have the answer, and so we have to go track down an answer the next day at work anyhow. So, you know, our physical attendance at the meeting shouldn't be hampered. If there is something that we need to do, they can email us that night or the next day, and we'll work up on it. So, again, still our job is to get them information. So that was the update on expectations. I did want to give you a brief update on other things that we're working on, but I'll take a pause and see if there are any questions on the expectations portion.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Carly, thank you. And thank you. I know you sent me the letter you sent out. I was able to make a quick edit before it went out. What I'm troubled by is we have in our district a neighborhood council has not met for almost 2 years. I don't know what the remedy for that is. I also don't know how we as a city, or even to empower the other citizens who participate in meetings, if there's an issue, how do we empower them to make change? Right. And thirdly, council president, when he was council member and was my seatmate, we went to together every single meeting. Sometimes there were only 3 people there, but we created an expectation that we were both going to show up. In retrospect, that was probably a horrible mistake, but we got a lot of kudos for it, and everybody goes, yay, they're both here. Well, yay, we're both here every single month, and it created an expectation that now is difficult. As you said, sometimes they're meeting the same day. And so a good balance is imperative, I think, so that we don't create expectations that we can't meet. If you have any magic around how we can better empower some of the folks who are neighbors, I'd love to hear it.
And thank you for asking that question. I actually met with City Legal about 2 weeks ago now. There's the neighborhood that you're referring in District 2. We also have a neighborhood in District 1 that stopped meeting because their leadership basically is tired and wants to step down, and no one else is volunteering to step up, which is, while I'm really hopeful with this Gonzaga project that we're working on, that we can start to encourage new leadership to come in and step up, because some of these people have been in these roles for a really long time and they're tired, and they've been doing it because they have a great sense of obligation and civic duty, and there's no one else willing to come in. So hopefully this training will kind of help with that and empower some other new leaders to come in. Regarding the neighborhood that's not meeting, again, what's our role? Knowing that they're independent, how can we help assist with that? And the reality is I didn't get a great answer. I think what we need to do is, encourage they need to follow their bylaws. And so if we can help those neighbors, I guess, sort of organize, hold meetings on their own. I mean, at this point, because they haven't had formal elections, they're not in compliance with their bylaws. They haven't been having meetings. I think, again, if someone was willing to step up and say, I'm going to take charge of this, I think we would support them on an angle. So I don't have a great answer yet for you. That's one thing we're working on. I think I will note on here, I'll just skip a little bit ahead for these neighborhood views you can use. We're really trying to promote the neighborhoods, and still open up to any ideas, but we're trying to do our best to sort of advocate, get people interested in government, get them to understand what the purpose of their neighborhood council is. So maybe they do start attending meetings. So you're right, some of those meetings that maybe have poor attendance, maybe we can get more people in. And I will finally mention the Building Stronger Neighborhoods Committee of Community Assembly realized this as well. And they've been starting to brainstorm some ideas on how they can offer support to their fellow neighborhoods. And so kind of, again, trying to partner with them, whatever we can do to help. We've got, our bully pulpit of our social media, our Channel 5 team, whatever we can do to kind of, again, try to get that across. That's what we're trying to work on.
Okay, it looks like we have a question from Councilmember Cathcart and Councilmember Wilkerson, and if we can finish this up in a couple minutes, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Carly. Yeah, and I know the neighborhood you're speaking of in District 1. My question is, what do we do in that sort of situation where a neighborhood council has kind of become defunct? I don't know if there's a process where the city plays any kind of role in trying to, stand up a new council or support some effort to stand up a new council? At what point does it sort of just dissolve and it just sort of doesn't exist anymore? And maybe, the boundaries could be looked at to be expanded from neighboring neighborhoods if that's ultimately what has to happen. I mean, kind of what does that look like?
So that was what I met with legal about, and tried to get a little bit more kind of guidance on what we should do. There are a few things. If the neighborhood decided to, and that's where it kind of comes in, like the neighborhood would have to decide to dissolve. So if they say, we just can't do this anymore, we need to dissolve, then I think our obligation as the city is then to reach out to those surrounding neighborhoods to say, would you be willing to absorb this one back in? A city council would have to approve the boundaries, but I think that would be one way that would, be a way forward for some of these more struggling ones. So that's one idea that we've been kind of lobbying, legal to see if we could do. I did ask, again, can we set aside and say we don't recognize you anymore and kind of, organize our own new neighborhood to get people involved with that? That was kind of no, we probably really couldn't do that because they are independent. So I think the best answer to your question is we could offer to try to support, see if merging would help, and that might help some of these neighborhoods that are close together that are struggling. Maybe by combined efforts, they would have more chance to have people who are willing to step up and serve in those leadership roles. So I don't have great answers for you right now. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I appreciate that. Sorry to interrupt. I think there's a point where, the city can play a pretty good role in helping to alert people to the fact that they have a neighborhood council and how they can participate. And that's something that most of our neighborhood councils don't have the resources to really do. But I also think at some point you have to have people who are willing to step up and attend or participate in those meetings. And if you just don't have that, then something different is probably going to happen. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Wilkerson.
Thank you. Councilmember Cathcart asked all my questions. I was going to ask if something could be in the bylaws when they are established, if they have not met over a certain length of time, that they would be disbanded. But it seems like that's certainly on the radar for some of the challenges that the neighborhood councils are facing. So thanks, Carly.
Welcome. I will end on this. Again, I had this video or this slide up, so just, again, plug for those videos. Go out and watch them if you haven't seen them. We're trying to get people more interested in participating. I know the Neighbors Drive 25 is an interest of City Council. I should have an update for you by email by the end of the month. We should have those signs ready to go. And then the Gonzaga Leadership School, that video library is in development, should be done by the end of the year, and we'll have that pilot program ready to go by January. So that's all I had for you today. Thank you for giving me time to speak.
Okay, I can't see everybody on the screen, so if anybody has a question. Oh, now I can see people. Okay, no more questions? Carly, thank you so much for this presentation. I know you are all overworked, but we do appreciate your efforts on behalf of the neighborhoods, and hopefully things will get easier. Thanks. Okay, Terry Stripes. Terry, you're going to talk to us about Sprague District CSO?
Yes, an RFP for the CSO.
Go for it.
So what we have done is, after Lewis Mueller and Councilmember Cathcart and Councilmember Burke had worked with the East Sprague business area and the bid out there, as well as the business association, and everybody wanted to move forward with trying to figure out a use for the top of the CSO tank behind SIPS. I think everybody's familiar with the area, correct? So the idea was, this last spring, is that we were going to put out an RFP to find somebody to construct a top use for that CSO tank. But we didn't have an idea yet on what all it could be. Could it be a park? Could it be a food truck court? Could it be a farmer's market space? And so the RFP that we've put together will help us understand what the desires are from the development community, the nonprofit community. It could be anybody who ends up applying for this. And then what the city can do is we can contribute up to $250,000 for the design, reimbursement, for the above ground use of the CSO tank. We can also put that $250,000 towards the permits that would need to be issued for the construction of that. So this RFP needed to be very broad because this was unknown territory. We've never done this. We don't know who's going to have an interest in building something on top of the CSO tank. Plus, they can't build over the entire tank. Part of the tank has to be left for us to be able to service the tank. So it got really complicated. We had me working on putting together a draft RFP, procurement working to assist us. We had ICM involved. We had legal involved. And we also had real estate and construction management involved. So it was a long process through this summer to get this RFP put together. I can say that we did a soft launch on Monday the 4th, and it's been out there 1 week. And it is beginning to circulate in the community, so I'm excited to see that. As we move forward, what we will need assistance with from council is making certain that we have a council member or two, if they are available, to participate on the review process of these RFPs that come in. And we will also seek leadership from ESBA or the bid out in Sprague to also participate in that review along with staff. So what we want to have is this process will be a collaborative process that'll be representative of the neighborhood as well as city, and it will make a recommendation to the city council and the mayor on who to enter into a contract with. So at this point, I see that Councilmember Cathcart has his hand up, but I'll hold it for questions at this point. If you want me to dig a little deeper and explain this a little further, I welcome that opportunity.
Yeah, hi Terry. I guess my question is, so in April or May, which I think was the last touch that we had, ESBA had put forward a pretty specific proposal that they had wanted to see happen. And I know they had backing from the neighborhood council on that. If I remember correctly, I think Louis Mueller and some planning staff were going to work on putting some things together, including an RFP that would specifically go towards trying to develop their vision. So I'm just curious, how does their vision incorporate into kind of this new RFP that we're talking about? Where does that stand? Have you guys been talking with the neighborhood? And just to make sure everybody's on the same page.
So my plan is, just as I'm talking with you now at Urban Experience, I want to go out to ESBA or to BID and ask them who's going to participate. It could be exactly what ESBA put together if somebody's willing to build it. It could be something else too, but that's where I need people who are committed to seeing the redevelopment of this area participate in the review of that RFP and help creating the scoring criteria for it. There's the basics of what it needs to be scored on. But it was my understanding that at the time, and I mean, this was third party because I was not there, but it was my understanding at the time that the rendition that was put together by ESBA had nobody to build it, had nobody to maintain it, and so we were shopping for somebody in this RFP to do that. I hope I've understood that correctly in putting this together.
Yeah, I think you were right. Who do what, how, as you go forward. So I'm happy to participate, want to be involved in this. I think it's really important. But I just want to make sure that they're at the table and making sure that kind of their vision that both ESBA and the neighborhood jointly shared. So that's all.
So what I anticipate that council members would need to be involved in is attending 3 to 6 working meetings on the evaluation. It depends upon how many we get and how complicated it gets for trying to figure out which one is the right one. Those meetings would be about 60 to 90 minutes apiece, and they would begin in mid-December and go through possibly the 1st of February. So I hope, Councilmember Cathcart, that you'll be part of that committee. And I don't know who else from council might be able to participate.
Hi, Terry. Councilmember Wilkerson. Mike and I share that area, so I'd be glad to step in.
Great. I will put you both down as part of the review committee, and then I'll begin funneling you information. I'll also ask you, I will send you the announcement about the RFP, and I will ask you to share that out to anybody that you think might have an interest.
And
Thank you.
Councilmember Kinnear has a question, and if we can wrap this one up in 1 to 2 minutes, that'd be great.
It's a quick one. Just want to make sure that we're being inclusive when you say ESBA and then you say East Central Neighborhood Council. They're almost the same. So I'd like to make sure that information is going out to the East Central Neighborhood Center and perhaps Carl Maxey, as much as you can push it out to other groups that aren't those two groups, so that we get a really good idea of what people want to see there.
I'll make those additions.
Does anybody else have questions? Terry, you want to use a couple seconds to wrap it up?
I think we're good. The RFP will remain open until December 6th. And at that point, then we'll know how many RFPs came in, and we'll get the evaluation team busy working.
Perfect. And you got 2 council members on there, so that's good. Good work. Thank you. Okay, we're going to now go to Margaret Hinson and Kristen Davis. We're going to talk about the Treasury Rent Assistance Program. Do I see them both? Before we start, I just want to say a big, big, big thank you to Margaret. Every time I have an issue, I don't know if council, if you've taken advantage of her knowledge, but every time I have a call from somebody that needs help with rental assistance, I go to Margaret. And I really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to hand it over for about 10 minutes. If you can do it in 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Hi, or good afternoon. Margaret and I weren't quite sure what the information that was looking for, because we didn't request for this to come off consent. So I have a report, just of what the next round is going to be like, but I can share that, and then kind of a status update if that's what folks are looking for, and we can answer questions. Or is there something specific that people are wanting to know?
Sounds good to me, but let me ask, do council members want anything else added to her report? Yeah, I think an update would be good. And Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, and I guess just generally speaking, it would be great to just get frequent reports on where we're at with rental assistance. I think that would be really helpful, just so we can all be on the same page and know how much has gone out and kind of who the people are specifically that we're able to help.
Sure, we have that information and can certainly forward it on directly. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick here. Okay, looks like we're there. So this next round coming up is the rent assistance 2.0, and so this would be in addition to what has already come through. So we're looking at, and what we're talking about today is getting basically permission to accept those funds for approximately 10.5 million. That does include administration fees, and we are looking that those would increase to some degree, because these funds are also focusing on additional people with, or less represented populations, things like that. Then the next thing is that they have to be less than 50% of the area median income, unemployed, and then again, part of the BIPOC population. And these funds are good October of this year up until October 1st of 2025. So does anybody have any specific questions about these next funds that are coming in?
Just what's the process? Are we doing RFPs, and when's that going to start?
Yeah, so Margaret can probably answer more specifically the process, but yeah, it'll be similar to what we have been doing. But Margaret, do you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yes, thanks. We will be reconnecting with the RFP committees that reviewed the initial applications and providing recommendations on how to move forward with those existing partners. The hope is to continue awarding the existing partners because they've already built up programs and have momentum and will continue to get the funds out faster that way.
Just to tag on, oh, go ahead.
I just make sure I understand this. So what you're saying, Margaret, is that there would be money distributed out to like SNAP and other organizations that we would encourage people to call to fill out the proper paperwork and see if they qualify?
SNAP is administering the county's funds. So for this is a pass through through Commerce, Department of Commerce, Washington State. And so for the 1.0 program, we awarded Live Stories and Family Promise.
Okay.
And then they each have partnered. Part of the RFP was that they would partner with buy-in for organizations, community organizations. So they have a network of community organizations they're working with. So currently, Live Stories is partnered with The Zone, Latinos in Spokane, World Relief, PICA, and they do have a partnership, a working relationship with the dispute resolution centers as well as the landlord association.
Okay. So if somebody gets a call from an individual who needs some rental assistance, then our offices would send them forward to one of these organizations, Live Stories or Family Promise. Is that right?
Correct. If you approve.
Okay.
That's right.
Thanks.
And I would recommend too, we have that information on the resident assistance page on the website, and it's a little bit more detailed as to, the different types of organizations. Each one of those partners, though, they know how to refer folks onto a different organization if needed. So, and just to tag on to what Margaret was talking about in terms of that dispersion, one of that process of having those partners is, this was the first time we've done this sort of program, and so between the procurement process and standing that up, and there's a lot of case management involved with these funds. It's as simplified as it can get, and that folks really only have to, attest that they need this assistance. But there's still just a lot of case management that happens that our partners really learned pretty quickly. And so and they've been doing a good job. And so, I think we don't want to slow the momentum, and we want to just continue to push those funds out the door as quickly as we can. And there are going to be additional outreach efforts with this round as well, just, to dig a little deeper. But that's if there aren't any more questions, I can segue on to the next slide that might give folks a little bit more information.
First, I'll just make a quick comment on the where it says includes more administrative fees. I can speak directly to the nonprofits of color who really were questioning if they were going to participate, because the administration fee last time did not cover the costs, and many of them were coming out of their own pockets to distribute this money because it is so intensive and it is hands-on and trying to reach a population. The ones who could do it online, those were easy. But when you're really making those phone calls and hand-holding, all that goes into the process. So I'm glad to see that was recognized, that the cost is more significant for some of those communities.
That was absolutely recognized very quickly. So, yeah. So the next slide is kind of where we are as of September 30th. So we have distributed $5.3 million. The number of household applications in was 3,157, and the number of households helped or that have actually received that assistance is 991. I thought the next statistic was interesting, and that the number of the people that had received help for the first time was 857, which I think really speaks to the need that is out there. Just for numbers' sake, the number of months paid in past due rent over those households is 4,072. And then the other thing that was that I think the partners really, that I heard the partners say, was the importance of not just catching up, but getting things stable for the next few months, knowing that just because I'm caught up doesn't mean that next month's going to be any different. So the importance of making sure that people are stable for months, for future months as well, not knowing when that, if they were going to be employed or not. So that future months is about 1,830. 54% of those households were less than 30% of the area median income. And then 60% of the head of households were female. And then 30% head of household were BIPOC. And then again, these are statistics as of September 30th. We have more specific statistics that I will send out to council and staff, but this is kind of a snapshot.
Council President.
Yeah, just kind of a follow-up. I'm trying to get, so my understanding is we had about $15 million of rental assistance that we distributed to vendors this summer. And what my first question is, that 5 million or so about a third of it, is that of that 15 million, or is that or is there more has been distributed? Because I mean, there are multiple different programs, so I'm just not clear on that.
Margaret, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's 5 million of the 15 million.
Okay, so that means there's 10 million left from that. And then I also heard that we were getting about another 15 million, and we talked about a little over 10 million. Is there some additional money coming as well?
This award that we're asking permission to accept is 10 million of that additional 15, and then next week we'll be requesting permission to accept that final 5 million.
Okay, all right. And aside from making sure that we allow that vendors to recover their actual costs, are there any other things that we're doing to try to speed up the distribution of the money? I think that's the biggest concern, not just in Spokane, across the whole country. And I'm just wondering if we feel confident that things will go faster now that people have figured out how this works.
Yeah, Kristen, if you don't mind, so we've ramped up to $1 million a month, and we plan to increase that. We also the cap, the admin cap, was set by the Treasury Department. It wasn't our cap, but there is a new flexibility that's been allowed where we can shift some of the rent assistance funds into some other staffing stability services costs that'll offset admin. So some of the case management costs, the connecting folks to housing, there's expanded services that we can leverage from some of these new flexibilities out of this kind of 2.0, this 2.0 award. So I'm confident we'll ramp up.
Go ahead. Yeah. And additionally, we're doing some communication pieces, and obviously, all of council's help too, to help push out that messaging to your districts and constituents would be highly encouraged. Councilmember Cathcart?
Yeah, so the graphic said we've helped about, 990 out of 3,000 and some applicants. And I'm wondering, do we know approximately how much bigger the need is than those 3,000 applicants? I'm sure there's folks who have not applied yet, and I'm just wondering if we have a sense of how many more might be joining that pool.
I can kind of answer that, but Margaret probably has more specifics.
Well, in that I don't, but we don't know the true need, and that's what many across the state and I think country as well. There's really there's a lack of real information on the need. So we're learning, and I don't have an answer right now.
So just to follow up, I guess, in terms of the future rent that we're providing, what are the parameters around that to make sure that we've got enough rental assistance to meet the existing need before we start meeting needs that may or may not be there down the road?
So the future rent is capped at 3 months at a time. So that's a nice guardrail there. And we also do know that Washington State is creating a permanent rent assistance program. So beyond these Treasury funds, we anticipate receiving more supports for those tenants in need.
Thank you.
I think the number of folks that are receiving and reaching out for assistance that haven't done that before, I think that's a pretty good indicator that it's going to be hard to kind of predict that, not knowing what the recovery is going to truly look like. So that's all we have, unless there's any more questions.
Does anybody have any more questions? Okay, feel free to contact them directly. You guys, thank you both for your work. I know this is a crazy time, but you've been very, very helpful to me and others, and I truly appreciate it. So thank you. Okay, we're going to move down to council requests. Melissa Huggins, my friend from Spokane Arts, is going to give a quick quarterly report on activities and all the cool things going on and how we're surviving.
Thank you. I will get my slides here. And let's see, as per usual, I will try to move through these as quickly as possible. We always have more updates than we have time to share them, so I will do my best to be very diligent about our time. So as you know, Spokane Arts is a 501c3, and we are supported by the city, the Public Facilities District, Visit Spokane, and the Downtown Spokane Partnership, among many others. Since today is Indigenous Peoples Day, I thought it was appropriate to start with an update on this court mural. The last time that I presented to this committee, this project was not completed, and I wanted to show you some photos. So this is the original rendering, design created by Ruben Marcilla. This project is funded by the Spokane Tribe and the Spokane Indians Baseball Club, and Spokane Arts has been kind of helping to facilitate and administer the project. We also paid for a mural apprentice on this project to help learn from the professionals, and all of the artists on this project were local Native artists. So just some progress photos that you can see here of the work in progress. The installation team, in addition to Ruben, included Luis Brigman, Sean Brigman, and Mariah Almeida. And this is a cell phone shot of the final court. I apologize for the quality. It was very cold at 7 a.m. this morning. But as you can see, lots of the beautiful imagery there, the hand drum, the camas flowers, the Salishan sturgeon nose canoe, and much more. And there will be interpretive signage that will be installed alongside this court by the Spokane Tribe and Spokane Indians, and they are working on that now. So moving up to a second court mural that we were able to install this year in partnership with Hooptown and Multicare. This was the proposed design rendering that was approved for the Thornton Murphy basketball court. And again, the court renovations were funded by Multicare and Hooptown, and then the artist stipends for 2 mural apprentices were paid by Spokane Arts, along with some funding for the lead artist. So again, another cell phone shot of the completed mural at Thornton Murphy Park, and the basketball court lines obviously are to be added. So those will be coming soon. And this project was administered by our staff member, Micah Maloney. So thank you for all her work on this. And just another shot. So again, the lead artist was Nick Getling, who designed this mural, and he was supported by Katie Fry and Kaylee Moss. Moving to some updates about sculptures. So as you know, the podium facility is almost done. Ready to be opened to the public. And I'm going to run through a whole bunch of sculpture updates in a row, and I wanted to note before I run through these, each of these projects were funded prior to the pandemic, but are just now, being completed and installed. And all of them were funded in accordance with the city's 1% for art policy that mandates that any new construction in the city of Spokane include 1% for public art, so that the community has free, beautiful, interactive pieces to enjoy and to brighten the community. So this is a photo of the Riverfront Park court mural just standing from the exterior plaza of the podium. And I just wanted to share that gorgeous view from the podium there, looking at the pavilion and overlooking the north bank of Riverfront Park. And then moving inside to the podium facility. So eventually there will be 3 pieces of public art at the podium. One is an interior sculpture hanging from the ceiling. There will be 2 outdoor sculptures along the north side of the facility. One will be installed this year, one will be installed next year. But specifically for the interior sculpture, the artist really wanted to take as inspiration nature, because the facility sits above the park, it's surrounded by nature, and the podium facility itself is so modern and has lots of straight lines and straight edges. It's very modern and shiny and new, lots of metal and glass. So they wanted to bring in some natural elements into the facility and kind of soften the edges. So this was one of the preliminary renderings of the pieces that they designed. And the artist team is Taiji Miyazaki and Clayton Binkley, and they were inspired by the basalt rock that the podium facility kind of sits on and above. So they were inspired by the way that basalt looks so much different when you're far away from it versus when you're close up. And one of the interesting things about these pieces is that when the selection panel was reviewing them and selected this artist team, everyone on the selection panel had different interpretations of what element of nature these were reflecting. So some people felt like they looked like basalt, some people thought they looked like birds' nests, some people thought they looked like bees' nests. So lots of different interpretations, but everyone was getting this sort of like natural inspiration. And the sculptures are illuminated on the interior, so this is a rendering of the interior lighting, and I'll show you some progress shots here quickly from above. So that's Taiji on the right inside of one of the sculptures, hand painting those bright, beautiful colors on the inside. This is local artist Mallory Batista, who is helping to paint another one of the sculptures. On the left there, you have Rob McCurdy along with Taiji and Clayton, who are working on the largest piece of these interior hanging sculptures, and getting an update with one of the arts commissioners on the right there. And then you can see these are, some preliminary photos. We will have professional photos soon, I promise, of the interior sculptures hanging inside the podium there. And then they are illuminated gorgeously at night. So again, I apologize for this terrible photo, but when you are walking through the park going north, you can see these sculptures illuminated at night, and they are stunning. This photo does not do them justice. I came out of a concert at the pavilion and was just absolutely bowled over by how beautiful they are, so I can't wait for people to experience those. Moving to Spokane Public Libraries, a couple of updates on our public art projects with Spokane Public Libraries, of which there are many. So this is the Liberty Park branch, a beautiful, colorful sculpture called Hoop by Sean Parks. And his inspiration, obviously, for the sculpture was this embroidery hoop idea. The blue threads on the top of the sculpture are intended to evoke the Spokane River. And he's a fabric artist by trade and really wanted to evoke that feeling of things being handmade, and fiber art is often, historically, has been perceived as a women's art. And so he wanted to play around with that notion. He said, growing up as a queer, non-binary kid, libraries were a safe place for me. I would escape to the library, losing myself in books. I was exposed to countless worlds beyond my neighborhood, learning I was not bound to the one I was living in. So just another quick shot of that. In the spring, there will be some tall grasses around the base of the sculpture that will kind of hide that concrete base, just so you know, but another beautiful shot of this lovely, colorful sculpture at Liberty Park. And then this is a sketch of the exterior sculptures that will be outside the Shadle Park Library. So each of these figures will be a metal cutout that represents a person reading in the grass. The artist's name is Jasmine Brown, and this is her first large-scale public art project, as was the previous artist, Sean Parks. And again, these will be metal cutouts. They will not be black and white. They will be painted in color, but this was just a preliminary design rendering so that people could get an idea of what she was envisioning, wanting to show these various images of all different kinds of people, all ages, all enjoying reading out there in the grass. So that park users and library users will both be able to enjoy these. And these sculptures will be installed, finished at the end of this month. So the footings are already there. Final installation happens at the end of this month. So very excited to see those come to life. Blowing through here. In September, we were able to host a very small masked edition of Music Video Jams, which is an annual event that we were not able to hold in 2020. The idea behind the event is that we pair emerging filmmakers and emerging musicians and pair them together to produce music videos. So we were able to have the event this year at the Big Dipper. It was one of the first events that the Big Dipper was able to have, in about a year and a half. So that was very exciting for everyone to be back in the space. We had a distinguished panel of judges, including Mayor Woodward, Malcolm Pells, who's a EWU professor of film, and Scott Nordahl, who's a local musician. And our winning team was hip-hop artist Iyer and filmmaker John Stanson. So I included some links for people to seek out their work. And all of the music videos will be airing on CMTV, and we'll get those posted to Spokane Arts YouTube and videos so that everyone can watch all of the videos from those participants. I did want to note we do have a show in the Chase Gallery called Bright Spot, which is through the end of this month. It's a beautiful show. This piece of artwork on the left is by Dana Squires. It's bright, it's colorful. I would really encourage people to catch this show before it gets deinstalled at the end of this month. And as you know, City Hall, free and open to the public. Just stop at the front door and at the front desk and tell them you want to go to the Chase Gallery, and they will show you where to go. Poetry Out Loud is a program that Spokane Arts administers for the Eastern Washington region, and I bring it up because registration is open for this year. And the program will happen in two ways this year. Normally, classroom teachers register. Any teacher at any school can register, at a high school can register to have their students participate. Every student who participates learns how to engage with classic and contemporary poetry. They learn public speaking. They learn to memorize and recite a poem in front of their peers. So there are many, many skills that they are able to get out of the program. This year, there will also be a virtual option for individual students. So if there are high school students who want to participate in the program, but there doesn't happen to be a classroom teacher or their school isn't participating, they can still participate on an individual basis. And we have all the information about Poetry Out Loud on our website. And if there are high school teachers who are interested in bringing this program to their classroom, I am the one to talk to about it. I love this program with my whole heart. And there's an upcoming workshop October 20th for teachers to learn about how easy it is to participate. I've already told you October is Arts Month. Tons of events that you can find on our website. I will note that the One Heart Native Film Festival starts this week, and so I would encourage everyone to make sure to attend some of the One Heart events and screenings. And then this is a little update on the Signal Box Art Wraps, which I know are such a popular program. And so each of these pins, the orange and the purple pins, show you the locations for the boxes that we will be installing next. So it's a batch of 22 boxes. The art is already selected. There is art from high school students and there's art from adult professionals. So the boxes that are in purple have already been approved by our city staff liaison. The boxes that are in orange, we're working with the city to get those approved. And then there are about 4 more boxes that we are looking for locations for. And we're trying to get those in the Northeast so that we have more boxes in the Northeast. But the construction on Wellesley is causing us a little bit of a challenge on that front. So just wanted to give you a visual of the geographic spread of all those art wraps on utility boxes. And then finally, we have a new program director. So Chantel Jackson is going to take over for Micah Maloney as our program director. And I could not be more thrilled. We are so excited that she'll be joining Spokane Arts. Chantel's an incredible artist in her own right. She has spent the last 15 years doing project management, doing DEI work, and we are just so excited for her to jump in and use her experience with murals and visual art and poetry and take the reins from Micah of so many of these wonderful programs. And I just know that Chantel will take them and run with them and make them even stronger. So we couldn't be more thrilled. And I did want to just quickly note, I know I'm running out of time, but I did want to note some of the contributions that Micah has made to Spokane Arts in her time. She's been such an advocate for queer artists. The entire Mural Apprentice program that we have built over the past year and a half so that aspiring muralists can learn from professionals. That program was entirely Micah's idea. She did all of the legwork on figuring out what paint types we could use for street murals and basketball court murals, which was a lot of extra work. And she also increased the number of shows that we do annually in the Chase Gallery. So before Micah, we did 4 shows per year. Now we're doing more like 6 to 8 shows a year in the Chase Gallery. So I just wanted to thank Micah and to share the news that we have our new program director and that we are thrilled for Chantel's leadership to take us forward. And with that, I will be happy to take questions if you have any.
Does anybody have any questions? I can't see everything, so pop up if you have a question. No? Okay, Melissa, you are a wonderful leader, and I know how hard you work, and thank you so, so much for this update. We appreciate it. And if anybody has questions, wants to know more about some of these art programs that are going on, or wants to donate time, just give Melissa a call. Thank you. Okay, we're going to turn to Marlene Feist quickly for an update on the Centennial Trail project on Summit.
Thank you, Councilmember Stratton. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to just share my screen because I think that's the best way for us to take a look at this. So, this project is substantially complete. That means there's landscaping and punch list items left, but the trail is in place. So you can actually take a walk on this when you're done here. It's a beautiful day. I would encourage it. I was out there last week so I could get some current pictures. So let's just kind of talk a little bit about this. Here's the route. We started at Boone and Summit and end here at West Point at Pettit Drive. So that was the connection point that we made through the West Central neighborhood. Really, a gap that we've been wanting to fill for some time. So this is the sort of the start of the new trail section. You can see we still have some landscaping work to happen here, but this is right at Boone and Summit. And some exciting features you're going to see is that really nice black hand railing, which is a continuation. We used some of this rail on the last section we did closer into downtown. You're going to see these little rock wall features. Those are happen at where the T intersections are. So where the side streets meet up with Summit Boulevard, you'll see these nice rock wall features. They're kind of short, kind of maybe a rock curb rather than a rock wall, but they're very pleasing little features there. some more things that we're seeing. Your top left photo is West Point Boulevard there. It is now one way coming into town, and it's narrow, providing a lot of traffic calming down this section. You're going to see new ADA ramps throughout this project on both sides of the street. You're going to see here on the upper right is the use of different materials. Some concern was that people would be using the trail and not realizing that there are driveway entrances over a portion of it. So here's where you'll see the concrete delineates the driveway entrance so that the user of the trail gets that different material. So they're on asphalt and then they notice something is different, and that's where the driveway happens. We also added extra concrete to all those driveway entrances so that we had a nice transition for the homeowner into the trail section. So you'll see that on the bottom right. Benches were added as well. Here's some close down to Summit Boulevard, and here is a couple that can really take advantage of the view. And the view is stunning on Summit Boulevard. If you've never walked this section of trail, which maybe you haven't, this is the view that you get of our community, and that is amazing. And they're basically, minutes from our downtown core. So definitely a walk you want to take. And this is where we connect up with Pettit Drive. So clearly we have the nice big wide trail section going all the way down the hill and beyond. So that's another amenity as well. It really allows people to continue on. And if I had taken a picture the other way, you would see that West Central Community Center is about a block away. So this is just a couple of folks I captured on Lime scooters on the trail. And this was actually next to some new housing that's going in right at that corner. So we're also seeing some economic development along this project as well. So that was my quick update. If anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have questions of Marlene? Marlene, I wanted to tell you that Shauna Harshman and I are going down to visit and walk that trail, I think tomorrow or Wednesday, just to get an idea of it. And I think, or I'm hoping that the neighbors have been involved and are starting to appreciate the changes that are being made out front of their homes.
Yeah.
Great.
Arlene, that looks fabulous. So now I have a reason to get my knees in shape to walk. But my question is, if homeowners who have been impacted, not on the trail, but their houses have been used perhaps for storing, their fronts of their houses have been used for storing material and they've had damage, will that damage be mitigated relatively soon?
If there's any damage to private property, please let us know that. Kyle's team will get right on that.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, Marlene, thank you so much. That was good to see that. And like I said, we'll be down there tomorrow. I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, enjoy it. It's a beautiful section.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right, just to let everybody know, Chris Becker is not available today to do a presentation, so she is going to send everybody an email update. So we're going to break up the last half hour of our meeting. First, we're going to start out with Dawn Carver, who is going to provide an update and some information on the Resource Center. And then after Dawn, then we're going to have Marlene Feist and Eric Finch provide kind of that future plan and update for the CHHS department. So Dawn, I'll hand it over to you, and you're on.
Thank you, Councilmember Stratton, and thank you, Council, for inviting us back to speak to you again about the Resource Center. Quick name change to make everyone aware of. It's now called the Resource Center of Spokane County. We wanted to show that we really do serve the entire community. Today I have some information, some demographics and some data, but I also have heard that you want to hear from folks who are at the center offering services to customers. So with me I have Jen Morris, who is the director. She works for Career Path Services, and Curtis Robinson, representing a variety of organizations, and I'll let him give a better introduction of himself because I'm not going to do justice there. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, run through some demographics and data, to give you a few updates of what we have done since we last spoke with you. And then I'd like to just have a conversation for the remaining minutes that we have left. Can everyone see my screen? Can you see the Resource Center slide? Okay,
we
perfect.
Can see it.
Okay, perfect. Right. So just really quickly, just remind everyone, we have raised, the Spokane Workforce Council and partners have raised $7 million to support the Resource Center. I'm so proud of our staff. Quick reminder, the Resource Center started as a demonstration project without a single dime. Not a penny was given to the Resource Center. The city, thank you, City of Spokane, paid the rent and then brought together a few providers, didn't have a director, no infrastructure, no phones, no internet, nothing, and needed partners to step up. It was a pilot project, and because it was on the WorkSource campus, we decided that it would be great for our customers, workforce customers, if this were to be a successful operation. And so we started to offer oversight and policy support and grant writing support. That's turned into us now managing the center and being largely solely responsible for fundraising. There's 19 partners that work out of the center. And after the demonstration period, I can say it's been an absolute smashing success in many ways. Not everything is perfect. I'm not going to say that it is, but we have had to scramble to come together and pay for everything that you see. We have raised $7 million. The money that we've raised would have probably otherwise gone to other locations within the center, across the campus, although we wouldn't have gotten into the rental assistance focus. And we would not see the diverse customer base that we're seeing. So it has just been a really great thing for our workforce campus, as has been for the customers. So you can see that's the grand total that we've raised. The reason we've been working with the city, with the council, is seeking support to pay the rent for the facility. When the project started, the partners who moved in, I think there was 15 at the time, were told that there would not be a rental cost. And because they're all primarily nonprofit, they did not write rental support into their grants. As we started to run to the end of the city lease, and of course we were in the middle of a pandemic, we were not sure what was going to happen. We were telling partners, we're not sure. Let us continue to work with the city and the county and see what sort of partnerships we can form. Of course, we know the county has voted to help support the rental costs for a period through May of 2023. And we have volunteered to put together a plan for long-term sustainability where all partners could write it into their grants, where we could write grants to specifically support the rental costs. And we've started writing into some of the grants that you see here, those that came later, the cost of rent going forward. We do not want to keep coming to you every year and asking for support, I promise you that. It was just never in our budget to operate the Resource Center. So we have had to redo our long-term planning, and we're happy to do that because it is such a great service for the community. You can see here the demographics. I know there's been questions of who we serve. This is who we serve. There's also been some questions about the lack of a database. Absolutely true. I won't give you the history on how that occurred, but we were told it was going to happen, and it didn't happen. So the Spokane Workforce Council has also raised money to pay for a database, which we've recently purchased. So all of the data that we all desperately want will be coming. We've launched a rental assistance program under Jen's leadership. We've helped hundreds of individuals with rental assistance. That was money that came from the city and the county, and of course through HUD. I know I am not making a pitch for further rental assistance money, but if you should need a group, the group down there is ready to go. They're ready to give out rental assistance money. They have solid practices. They've operated millions of dollars in federal funding and have never had a finding. So if you need a place to put some rental assistance, this group is ready. Quickly, services by numbers. When this started, the group that started the Resource Center said, what if we could serve 1,000 or 1,200 individuals per year? That was a goal, and not one that we had set, but that was a number that were being thrown around. Since the pandemic started, the team, which they did serve about 1,000, since the pandemic started, they've served 6,500 individuals. They've had one new partner join. So those 19 agencies came together and served 6,000 customers, more than 6,000 customers. They've also completely redesigned how they offer services. They offer online services, by phone services, and in-person services. The team down there, I cannot say enough about. They are absolutely the best folks that I've worked with in my career. You can see on here our expanded partnerships. We just added AJAC, the Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee. They're opening the Apprenticeship and Skilled Trade Center in partnership with us, which is launching in the next few weeks. We're also working with the zone. We're putting together a grant, and I think World Relief will be coming on with us and trying to see how we can better serve the Marshallese community, because we have so many individuals from that community coming into the resource center, and the zone is experiencing the same thing. So just some great partnerships. You can see here some of the services that we're providing. We've talked with you about all of this stuff. So what I really want to do is turn it over to Jen and to Curtis. I would love you to be able to hear from them what it's like working there every day. And I'll just turn it over to them now. Jen, I'm not sure if you or Curtis wants to go first, but feel free, jump in.
I'll let Curtis go first.
I was going to punch you.
You for me a lot.
All right. Well, I will go. So, many of you know my name is Curtis Robinson. I serve as the executive director for the nonprofit called Revive Center for Returning Citizens, which has multiple intersections with Revive, the Revive family. So it's the Revive Reentry Services, Revive Counseling, and the organization, grassroots organization known as I Did the Time. You also know that the connectivity that I bring to the table is, and I need to make sure that this is stated for the record, is that I serve as the first formerly incarcerated person to serve as a commissioner for the Criminal Justice Training Commission for Washington State. And I am not representing those interests or that organization here, but that is an intersection that I bring to the table. Also, the Spokane NAACP, I am acting president right now until President Duncan recovers from her surgery, which should be very soon. But my official position is first vice president. Previous president passed, immediate president passed. I also serve on the boards of Just Lead Washington and Better Health Together. So for the Revive Center, and for our nonprofit, we've been engaging off and on and through the multiple organizations, Spokane Resource Center, since they opened. And we've had multiple trainings, multiple conversations. And I want to make this very clear that when we're talking about the work that the Spokane Resource Center has been doing, they've also been working on themselves. Right. And so I am a testimony and a witness to that, because we've been doing that work with them. And so I know that some of the struggle that some populations or some of our Spokane human family might have is just because they're not involved means that the work's not going on. And that's just not true. And so part of the important thing to remember is that instead of assuming these things aren't happening, is my experiences, and this is one of the things that we teach through Just Lead, is that we have a founder here, I believe somewhere in there, Brian, but that we ask why, and then instead of acting on an assumption, we go in and we question and we observe and we hopefully accurately assess what's happening in that particular situation that we're having a question about. And so I bring that up about what's happening here at the Spokane Resource Center and what's been happening. So my experience has been is that this organization and this institution has been meaningfully, intentionally, and sustainably working in and working into not only doing the work for our populations using understanding and growing in their understanding of using race equity lenses, anti-racism lenses, diversity, equity, inclusion lenses, but has actually also been working on themselves to help better understand what that means, and not just getting more system, institutional perspective about what that is, but actually seeking out people like myself and so many others, lived experience, expertise about what that means. What do we need? Right, so letting the needs of the community dictate the actions. And so with that, do I have screen share capability? I believe that I do. I'm going to show you this one. So here, let's pull this one up. So what we've been doing here, especially since on the other side of the pandemic, we've opened up these trainings here. The Spokane Resource Center has been one of our greatest partners in doing this. They have provided, as you've already heard, free space, free training rooms, and just welcoming our justice-involved populations into space here through our organizational affiliation. What we've been doing here are these trainings: trauma-informed, ACEs, motivational interviewing, implicit bias, cultural competency, and race re-education, using racism as the social determinant of the health issue and a local and nationally acknowledged crisis, to also provide a framework for addressing and healing models. And let me go ahead and see if I can get, now that I got into this thing, how do I get out of share? Oh, there it is, stop share, bam. So we've been doing those trainings here since the end of April, the beginning of May. We have served, within those trainings, just within those trainings themselves, we've served about 60 justice-involved individuals. We have, in the middle of doing that, we've also, with the things that we actually bring to the table, so we're not only bringing those trainings, but we also do civil legal aid, as well as what we're calling case stewardship for our justice-involved populations. And so with all of the connectivity that we have and that the Spokane Resource Center has, we ourselves have serviced about 150 individuals since May. In those trainings, at least in those trainings, over 20% of them have been unhoused and have identified as unhoused, and we provided services and outcomes for that. 80 to 90% of them have stated that they are having housing issues, but yet are unable to actually file complaints about them because they're in such a urgent space that they'd rather not create a bunch of more stuff and just actually get the situation resolved than actually deal with the complaint about it. And that's where a lot of the populations are coming in from. In our trainings, yes.
We got to kind of condense this a little bit because we got one more topic after you guys. So if you can wrap it up in about a minute, can you do that?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
So, yep. So we've got we serve about 30% of the Black population, or that have come in at about 30%. It's been about the same as far as the Native population. When we're looking at the jail population, it's been it's as far as justice involved, it's been about 12%. And then 7% as far as Native Americans. And so one of the things I really just want to make sure that you understand is that boots on the ground, people that are actually providing these services here, know the value that this place has. And with the connectivity that I bring to the table, with like the Freedom Project, the Way to Justice, the Providence SNAP, Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, the American Indian Center. I mean, all of that is actually coming and happening here. And so I find it very troubling to think that you who are our advocates, and many of you I talk to on a consistent basis, would not support something like this. And the only reason I can think of that something like that would happen is because you don't have a real experience of what's happening here. And so taking the real experience of what's happening here, with all the intersections and the truth that I bring to the table in conversations with each and every one of you, I'm telling you, that's happening here. And it absolutely needs your support. And if you're, and just let me have a real talk with you, and then I'll pass it on. If you are half the supporters of this kind of work that you believe that you are, funding something like this shouldn't even be a question. If you need to do something better, then you do it after the fact, not cut something like this short at the knees when it's in the mode that it's in. Love you and appreciate you. Thanks for hearing me.
Thanks, Curtis. Sorry to rush you through that. Dawn, I'll give it back to you. And if we can finish this up in a couple minutes, it'd be great.
Yeah, I won't add anything else. I know you've heard from me so many times. I just wanted to bring someone else who actually is working there. I'd heard from members of council that it'd be helpful to hear from someone who has boots on the ground, so that's what I was attempting to do. Thank you, Curtis. I actually had no idea what Curtis was going to say. I never do, and I don't need to. So thanks, Curtis. Jen's available to answer questions. I'm available. If you're interested in supporting the Resource Center, it would be a partnership between us, the county, and the city. And we, of course, appreciate your support. And I want to just publicly thank the staff of the Resource Center. They're doing amazing work. Thank you again for having us with you today.
Well, thank you, and I know the kind of work that's done there because I've been there and visited, and I appreciate everything you guys do. Michael Cathcart, you have a quick question?
Yeah, Dawn, can you share, if you know, what's the approximate amount of time, I guess, spent with each person that comes through the doors? And then do you know kind of what percentage of those individuals that come through your doors are either from the city of Spokane or perhaps they're homeless in the city of Spokane or something like that?
Jen, do you have data that you can provide? And if you're going to look that up, I can start to answer the first question. Thank you for the council member. Yeah, it really depends. So the wonderful model at the Resource Center is to meet each person where they are. So one person might need 20 minutes to help address a more simple need, if that should be clothing, for example. And others could take, days to address if they have a housing need and a medical need and a justice-involved need. And that could take, days to weeks. So Jen, I know that you're looking up data. Councilmember Cathcart, I just want to say that it is a very individualized service, and I do appreciate that about the model. Jen, I'll turn to you.
While she's looking that up, Councilor Cathcart, I will let you know that that the engagements really, just as Dawn said, that it's really situational, it's person-centered, and it's a wraparound approach, and we're intimately engaged in that process here. So there are people that even if their initial urgent issue is resolved, we make sure that we are still doing consistent follow-up check-ins with them to make sure that things haven't shifted and changed. Because if you know anything about working with some of our populations that have some of these very stark challenges, it may be okay 1 minute and it may not the next. And so it's really on us to make sure that we reach back into their lives and say, hey, we're here, how you doing? We love you, we care about you, what else can we do? If everything's okay, awesome. If everything's not okay, then we're there, and we have that continuing relationship to go ahead and hopefully capture that moment and create a pathway detour before it escalates to something even worse than what we're encountering.
So data that Jen's going to show real quick. Jen?
Yeah, so it looks like that the data that we have, and mind you, again, we never had a actual database. So this is all from our intake sheets that we do with everybody who walks in the door, and I put it into Excel and create the data from that. It looks like 49% are homeless or doubled up. So we do count that as being homeless as well. So I don't have with me right this second the zip codes that folks are in, but I will tell you that the majority of those folks are going to be in Spokane, in the city of Spokane. Most of the folks that we serve in Spokane, outside of Spokane city limits, are folks that are receiving the rental assistance right now that we have through the county. But other than that, the folks that are coming in that are houseless and or doubling up right now are City of Spokane residents. And I can get that number for you. I just have to do a little bit more hand counting on that.
And just a quick follow-up. I'm sorry, Karen, I know we're running out of time. Dawn, is there what's the term of the lease that you guys are signing? And what are your plans, I guess, over the next 1 to 3 years in terms of what your location would be?
Thank you for the question. So the landlord rented originally to the city of Spokane. We tried to take over the lease, and he refused to lease to a nonprofit. So rather than exiting the space, the county signs the lease, and so we had nothing to do with the negotiation of the terms. I do think they did a good job on our collective behalf, and they signed the lease. The county signed the lease through May of 23. So that is the partnership that we are hoping to form with the city. If you are interested, is a 3-way funding partnership where the Workforce Council will pay a third, the city, if you're interested, a third, the county a third, and then working together on a sustainability plan. So we might have we're able to have a long-term plan for sustainability. Again, this was sort of it was not a plan for us to operate the resource center. It just turned out to be the right thing to do, and so we're going to step up and do it. And if we could be a partner with the city, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, I'm going to close this conversation. Dawn, thank you so much. I would encourage council members, if you have questions, go visit Dawn at the center and learn more about what's going on there. You'll be impressed. And if you have additional questions or you want additional numbers, call Dawn, and they're very good about sharing information. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. You're free to give out my cell phone number as well if you need to. Thank you.
Okay. What we're going to do, we have to be done by 3:15, so I'm going to turn it over to Johnny Perkins and Marlene Feist and Eric Finch. And I apologize we ran so late. There was a lot of good topics there. So let's go ahead and talk about CHHS and future planning.
I'm going to go right to Mr. Finch. You're on, Eric.
All right. So thank you all, and thank you, Council. I'll just share this, and we'll dive in. And in respect to time, I think we'll skip to, the most important elements here, which, I think will be first just in terms of, a vacancy update. We have active recruitments for a number of the program professional and program specialist areas. Those interviews are, those are in progress. We have active interviews that are happening this week on the director level positions, and certainly as we mature those, there'll also be, I think, a role that we'll ask, I think, the council to have, some work on an interview panel there. So those are ongoing. Obviously, it's not fast work, but it's necessary work to try to get the right level of expertise in place. And, there's a couple areas where obviously we're working with civil service because there's not current lists, and that just, that's just a process that we have to go through in terms of making sure that there's updated recruitment and lists that get dealt through that process with civil service. So I'll pause there in case there's any questions on the, the vacancy, the recruitment piece that we're actively working.
I just have a quick question, so we can rest assured that we are moving towards interviews for a director position for that department, correct?
Yes, interviews, I think those first rounds of interviews are happening. We had some basically this morning, and we'll have, the next round of them on Wednesday. And then, out of that, we'll come, I think the next steps in second interview process.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Eric? I can't see you, so just ask. Okay.
And then moving on, this is, I think, the tracks of effort slide that you've seen previously. This has just been updated. The red box is kind of those current areas of focus this week. And, I think one of the things that I would like to call out, I think both internally and externally, a lot of conversations we've had with stakeholders, I think there's a desire to look at the overall organization structure, as it relates to CHHS and make sure that what we're doing there in terms of work is both structured correctly, as well as has kind of those right classifications in place. So that some of that discussion is happening in parallel, but we're also trying to get the right expertise in, using, current classifications where certainly it's appropriate. I think that the next pieces of this, which I'll get into, are really kind of focused on some of those detailed projects to give status. Some of this will be, I think, similar to the Wednesday update that you got. And I think that what I'd like to have Kirsten just talk about next is the overall communication plan, just in terms of how we're trying to kind of increase transparency and information weekly on the process.
Thanks, Eric. So hopefully all council members and staff received the update that went out yesterday. And the goal is to have those go out once a week on Thursdays. This will be our first week, so we'll see how that works. But we should have the platform all set up to go. So hopefully that will answer a lot of questions and provide updates as we move through. And we'll give you the information that you're looking for. And that's going out to a wide variety of folks, all of our community partners. I've asked ONS to push it out through neighborhood councils, the community assembly, and then, all of our contacts in CHHS that are on our RFP list, community centers. So it's quite a large outreach in terms of getting those updates out there.
Thank you, Kirsten. And again, I think as you have, feedback on, the format of information or questions or gaps you see, please let us know. And there's like a new leadership email address we put out there, distribution list called CHHS Leadership. I encourage you to use that. That gets to all of us and make sure that it doesn't, just linger on one person's, inbox. So next, I think I'll have Marlene a brief, kind of currently where we are on the winter plan effort.
Thank you, Eric. So the winter plan, of course, is really important, something we're thinking about a lot this time of year. The Guardians contract began about a week ago, so that's good progress. We're looking to support some of our providers with getting some funding for staff recruitment, so that's underway. We've actually been working with the county. They have some ideas around some additional emergency hoteling because of COVID and other reasons, so we're going to connect with them and see what we can add to our winter plan. Way Out Shelter is tentatively scheduled to open the first week of November. While that is not low barrier space, the goal here would be to free up low barrier space by moving those who are ready to move on to other parts of our system and open up spaces in the low barrier areas to allow more people to be housed during these winter months. So you can see we're making progress along this path. You did hear about the status of the rental assistance program, which also is an important part of this because that helps people stay in the housing that they have, which is probably one of the most critical things we'll do this year. So just know that we're progressing. If you have specific questions about the winter plan, we are happy to do that. There is information on the website, along with information related to cooling centers and safe air centers per the council's audit ordinance. So that is now available on the website. We'll update that as we go as well.
Marlene, just a quick question. What about transportation? We did a good job. What was it, a year ago? We had some, I think it was the Guardians provided transportation. If there wasn't room at one shelter, they could go to another and get them there. Do we have that capability this year?
Council member, I'll have to check into that and get back to you. That's not a question I asked specifically, but very good point.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I know we are having conversations with some of the partners, but that hasn't really gelled to something that we can kind of, I think, publish and plan for yet. So we will take that on board, Council Member.
Perfect. Anybody else have questions for Marlene? I can't see you, so just talk up. Okay.
Okay, so I'll move on to NOFO next, and I think we'll conclude here is kind of like the most important, or this, and I think one other area is the most important, just based on time, and that's on our NOFO HUD grant renewal and new project process. This is an area that has been of concern just because of the subject matter expertise loss of the city. The 18 renewal projects are well in hand. That information is at the city level. There's scoring assistance from some of the partners out there. We are reinforcing, through some grant writing contract resources that can be brought on. Honestly, they started kind of over the weekend and maturing today in terms of getting fully on board. My next meeting that I'll go to after this is actually that kind of meet and greet with those individuals. To help provide some continuity, going forward in that process. We've asked and got approval from the COC to, take an extra week with, the deadlines that we can use internally with the COC in terms of both new projects as well as project submittals, to make sure that we kind of get them to a specially arranged COC meeting that will be, on or about, the 1st of November. And still giving us that 2 weeks we need to post the information, as per the HUD requirement, and then make sure that we have that full 2 weeks to submit, the HUD application. So those are kind of the main moving parts there. Any questions on the HUD NOFO project renewals or new projects?
I apologize. I think Councilmember Wilkerson had a question before we started up again.
He addressed it. I was very concerned after listening to the COC meeting this morning about the loss of subject matter going forward. Although the strike team is an amazing team, this is not historically the area they work in. And so that knowledge and getting out to the community is, as you know, all of you, is extremely disconcerting to the community. And so I just want to acknowledge that we do have some depth of knowledge loss going forward.
Yeah, thank you, council member, and you're right, and it's of equal concern, obviously for us. And, I think that we've done the both the COC and the community call. One of the challenges as it relates to this initial phase, right, is that, usually it's a staff thing to kind of put some of this information together, and it has to be neutral, right? And so one of the challenges with a lot of our expertise that's out there on the COC or a lot of the subcommittees, CHS, is that they might also be, a member of a program of record, right, that's part of that scoring, and they really can't help us with this initial piece. But the good news is we're just helping create the package. It will ultimately go to these same people for the overall kind of scoring and prioritization effort. So it's just trying to make sure that we get the best qualitative information we can together, and that's where this additional expertise will certainly come in handy.
One more question. Eric, how many people do we have in the pipeline for potential employment? I heard there was one brought on board last week. Is there anyone else that's kind of imminent?
There's no one imminent. Yes, the communications person, who just got brought on board. I think Kirsten, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks?
Yeah. Or September 22nd was when he started.
So he will be kind of the future communications piece. You'll probably see him on more communication going forward as we kind of do that kind of left seat, right seat, between Kirsten and him. So that's a good plug in. And like I said, we've got kind of consistent interviews going on. We've got some folks identified, but it's not. We don't have start dates yet to get, but we look forward to giving more positive updates by the end of this week. So anything else on the NOFO side or other aspects? And I'm just going to cover off my last, so we can get done in time. And that this was kind of the slide of the recommended shift in the dates. So that's part of your package. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about HomeARP, because this is one of the ones that where ultimately you'll be seeing it come before you, I think, on the 18th. On the agenda, and then ultimately we have a couple days after that to make sure we get that submittal in, and that's for the $600,000 as it relates to home ARP. And so there'll be more information that we will be, I think, forwarding on that as we move down that path. But this at least gives you an idea, and again, it's on the information that was submitted to you earlier today. So I'll stop there. Any overall questions as it relates to CHHS, please let us know. Again, as we said, we're actively working this, and one of the things I want to make sure we achieve through these conversations and our one-on-ones and everything else is that you see that there's a depth of leadership involved. It's not just one member, and it's certainly we're applying in depth to make sure that we have all the bases covered. Any questions?
Anybody have questions? Yell them out. Eric, Marlene, Johnny, Kirsten, thank you so much. I'm sorry that this has turned into such an emergency, that it's taken this long to kind of capture this and start moving it forward in a productive way, but it looks like you're doing it, and we appreciate your efforts. Anybody have anything else they want to say for the good of the order? Okay, we made it. It's 3:13, and we'll see you at 3:30. Bye.